allegations at the airport. So good morning, Senator Brown.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
We're doing absolutely fantastic. Fantastic Friday in here. Thanks for joining us, Senator. So, yeah.
Yeah, so take us back when you first heard about these allegations about online gambling at the airport.
Well, it was actually several weeks ago. I did receive a call from an individual who was an anonymous caller. The individual did not identify their name, but they wanted to bring to my attention that there was an incident up at the airport where he specified that there were 6 officers that were involved at Port Police. One was a supervisor.
Airport police. Airport police, right?
I'm Airport Police, yes. And he did specify that this happened even December. He was concerned. The individual was concerned because, they were police officers, and they were gambling. They were gambling using the computer and electronic devices, and they were exchanging money. And he felt that issue should just go beyond adverse action. He felt it was, in his view, the individual believed it was official misconduct. And he wanted to bring that to my attention. So that pretty much is all the information that was provided. I mean, I didn't receive any specific names. Of course, I'm just receiving a call, and that's the reason why I did send a message to, Senator Amanda Shelton, because she is the oversight for the airport and has more interaction and familiarity right now with what's going on up there. So I did bring it to her attention, and, for her to determine how to proceed with regards to that information, because certainly it is concerning. We've since found out, of course, from your news story yesterday and the information of the Civil Service Commission that this indeed happened. So, it has become verified. But of course, I mean, we just want to make sure that when people are giving us information, we have to, have a process for which we can get it to the appropriate parties. And hopefully if there's a need, to further follow up and take appropriate action.
Right. And we're seeing this trend of whistleblowing a lot. I mean, I know during the height of the pandemic, there were a number of, I don't want to say going back to the Guard, there was a lot of people putting out letters anonymously about General Agagi. And then more recently, we had the public health issue where an anonymous tipster sent a bunch of emails with some very juicy details.
And specific details. Pictures, video.
Right. That would kind of, to me, infer that they either work at public health or like intimately familiar with its operations. And then so now you have this. And this, I think, it's huge. It's huge. I mean, if you look at these documents, Jericho Santos had 275 people.
249, I think.
249?
Okay. I think.
Well, let's just say hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Okay. And a lot of them were, brief firefighters?
Yeah. Superior Court marshals, airport police. Some private business owners. There was a private company that was mentioned in there. But, Senator, after, the complaint you received was for airport police officers. And I'm not sure if you got a copy of the Civil Service Commission documents. And then after hearing that, it went from 5 to like 249 allegedly.
Right.
And not just at the airport. How concerning is that to you?
Well, that's where this whole issue, and you're right about people. I'm certainly almost on a regular basis here at the office receiving either calls or people just stopping by, wanting to relay their concerns about issues with regards to our government, how it's operating, concerns they have as to whether it's operating properly, as whether, government employees or officials are operating according to how they should be. And I think, we're just seeing a greater trend. I mean, a lot of our people are fed up with being fed up with seeing these type of things happen in their government. And they want people to be responsible. And if not, they certainly want people to be held accountable for it. And so I'm sure as we have, I certainly will continue to be open if people want to give my office a call or let me know. If they have issues, certainly we have to vet the information. I mean, we do need a process for which this information can be vetted properly. I mean, we're not here just to shame or go out and look for people to attack people. That's not the agenda, but the agenda definitely is to ensure that there's accountability. We talk about that, but we need to put it into place. We need to have accountability in our government. We have to ensure that public officials, and that doesn't begin and end at our level of senators or governors or mayors or judges. I mean, throughout the government, from the top to the bottom and the bottom back up, everyone who works for the government of Guam is a public official and should be held to a higher standard of performance. I think people are getting tired of seeing the lack of services and responsiveness they'd like to see from our government. And then we hear stories like this, where you have law enforcement officers that have a responsibility while they're on duty to ensure that they're performing their duties. I think we have an expectation for that. And then to find out that, they're not only they're not performing their duties, they're engaging in activities that would be considered under our current law illegal. I mean, last time I checked, last time the people of Guam voted on this issue, they didn't vote to support gambling on Guam. So that is a concern. Actually, a few weeks ago, when I first got back into the legislature after all these many years, it's going to be interesting this morning because this is my first session that I'm going to be attending in 15 years. But one of the things that I did do in a meeting that I had with Speaker Terlaki and Senator Tello Taitigui and I had gone to see her, and one of the things we did discuss, which I think there's a need for, it's because of circumstances like this, is the Committee on Corruption in the Guam legislature, so that we do have a process of accepting information that comes out of the public and the community and being able to vet that information and then, have that committee review and determine the appropriate course of action so that our people know that there is a process in place so that if they do have a complaint, they know how that process is going to be vetted and where it's going to go. And certainly have other members of the legislature that will be on this committee to help determine how to proceed and how to evaluate the information. And certainly because the legislature has its oversight responsibilities that it should be involved in on a regular basis, we should be able to look into these issues within any respective department or agency in the government of Guam. We do recognize separation of powers. We understand that. But at the same time, we certainly have an obligation to ensure that we review these issues. And obviously, this particular circumstance is shown very clearly that there's a need to do that. There's a need to do that in our government.
What is the next step, Senator? What way should the legislature deal with this? I mean, let's face it. You have the feds coming out and they're saying that the court's corrupt, the marshals are wiping warrants, law enforcement on Guam they think involved with crystal meth, and now we get this gambling thing. So, it's just one thing after another.
Well, and I'll tell you what it tells me. It tells me that the more light you shine on these issues, the more attention is placed on it. When people that are doing misdeeds in this government realize that their eyes and ears all around them, including in the department and agencies that they're working in, then this issue is going to come to light. And when it comes to light, it's a little more difficult to be involved in these things or get away with it, especially when that information starts flowing and people can provide. This is just one example of one anonymous call, to my office. But, there's others that might have more specific information that gives us something that not only from our respective branch of government, to have oversight, but if we have enough proper information, then we can also refer it to the respective authorities. This type of stuff has been happening because nobody is able to have a way without retribution. You know that. I'm sure you probably, both the two of you on your program, probably get other people, other government employees that want to relay or have relayed information to you, but they're fearful. Oh my gosh, I might get retribution. I'm going to get harassed. I'm going to get picked on. So they don't say anything sometimes, but they know very well what's going on. And I think if they know that their government and certainly our legislature is not going to sit back and let these things happen, and there's no accountability to the process. We're here. We're going to be doing the budget. We're taking the people's money to operate this government. We have a responsibility. Every elected official that has oversight over this government has a responsibility to ensure that our government is operating effectively and efficiently, and that where there are abuses in this government, where people are taking advantage of the public resource, of the people's money, then they certainly should be reviewed and held accountable through the appropriate authorities. And I think bringing this to light is definitely the way to go. Ensure we talk about it, we campaign on it, and I'm very much, for my view, I've been in the government many years, and seeing and hearing things like this going on, it's just not right. We have corruption in our government. You can't want to gloss it over and make it seem, oh, everything's so good, everything's fine. we see that's not the case. And we see that at the end of the day, it's our people that suffer the consequences. They get less service, less resource, less response. And then the money that they're putting up that they should be benefiting from in the services that our government should be providing to them is being misused and abused by parties that have their own interests. Granted, in this case, I'm sure there are a lot of good law enforcement officers at the Guam Airport Authority, as I'm sure there is at the port, as I'm sure there is in the Guam Police Department. But when you have a few of those bad apples in the barrel, my gosh, it just gives a negative light, especially people that have, sworn to uphold their job responsibilities. They've taken an oath to do that. We have greater expectation of our law enforcement officers by virtue of the power that they have been granted by the people to ensure that things are operating properly and safely in their respective departments, be it the airport or the port, or certainly for the Guam Police Department on our roads out there, ensuring the safety and welfare of our people. So by all means, we have a greater expectation for law enforcement, and we should expect it, we should demand it. So when we see and hear things like this, it's very disturbing and it's very unsettling, because you're like, wow, they have time to do this on duty? How are we ensuring that they're taking care of their respective responsibilities at the airport? I don't think these are things that should be glossed over. I think they need to be brought to light. I think they need to be corrected. And we should build a better and stronger government that's more accountable and responsive to our community. Because certainly, I haven't been on the campaign trail for many years, but I have to tell you, even in spite of this pandemic last year, that's the message I'm getting from people out there in the community that I see, that come up to me, that want to relay their issues or concerns or their appreciation that these things are being looked into. Because I think our people are just fed up. Like I said, they're fed up with being fed up about this and not seeing anything, that there's no consequence and that everything's laid back. We just let it go because it's been happening forever and, there's nothing we can do about it. And I'm saying, no, it's not right. We need to do, and we need to address it properly. And that's certainly why I want to pursue with Speaker Terlahi creating this committee on corruption in the Guam legislature, so that our people, at least through this branch of government, through this branch of check and balance, have an ability to have these concerns reviewed. And if it's determined that there's legitimate information provided, then definitely we should move it forward. We're not just here to smear people, attack people, or belittle people, but by all means, if you're a public official abusing public resources, you should be held accountable for it.
Senator, so at this point, and I'm pretty sure Senator Shelton has seen the story and, the major reveals that came out of it. At this point, is a sit down all that's warranted, or do you think that we need to see, because if there was an oversight or some kind of an investigation by the legislature into this, it kind of seems like it would fall under a bunch of different committees, right?
Well, but that's not that complicated to address. I mean, I've sat in the past in joint committee hearings that were their respective jurisdictions. That's not an issue. The respective chairpersons and members of those committees can be sitting on that committee, to oversee this. I mean, certainly, I think this is it's not my place. I'm sure these respective chairpersons know what their responsibilities are, but certainly I think the people of Guam should see an oversight hearing to find out exactly what is going on at the Guam Airport Authority, because these things have been left in the dark in the past, and then these things have been allowed to happen, and some people just take advantage of it. I mean, they build their own kingdoms in this government. They run their own show, and nobody holds them accountable. They get away with it. It's the people that come forth sometimes and speak up. They're the ones that have to suffer the consequence. And I just don't think that should be the case. I think we should ensure that these issues get brought to light and that they're corrected, and that all our public officials know that they're all under scrutiny. I mean, people see us every day. They may know our names. They may see our face. I mean, it's a little hard to hide in the dark when you're in your public life in a small island community. But we've got 11,000 plus government of Guam public servants. And they also, as far as I'm concerned, are public servants, public officials. And again, they should be held to the same responsibility and the same standard. They're paid for by public money. And we should expect more. I think what I'm sensing out there in the message is like, oh, it's kind of okay. Let's work on second, third, fifth, 10th chance, whatever the case may be. Like, hey, there are certain positions in this government. You got one chance. You have one chance. You have one chance with the people of Guam to perform responsibly. And when you don't, it's in the case, my gosh, of law enforcement that have the power to pull you over, arrest you. I better be careful driving out Route 10A anytime soon. But you understand what I'm saying here. I mean, they should be held to a higher standard, and they
Yeah.
should perform as such. I think this continued anything goes kind of attitude. I'm sorry, that's not my philosophy. That's not how I see it. That's not what I see and hear from people in my constituency that are out there that talk to me, that come to my office and relay their concerns. They want better. They want better. They want a fair playing field for everyone. We're not out to shame anyone, but by all means, if you're engaged in public corruption, if you're engaged in abusing the resources of people, you should be held responsible.
So you had the meeting with the speaker and Senator Talos about this committee on corruption. How did it end, and how would something like this be created? Does it have to go through the Committee on Rules? Does it go?
I was very favorably responsive to it. I think the thing we're looking at now is working on a process of that. What is the process? If a complaint, information comes in, how do we vet that? Where does it go? How does it get assigned? Because of course we're in the legislative branch of government, and having been on both sides of the aisle, I do recognize what our authorities are here versus being in the administration. I hope the administration's also taking note and taking responsibility within their operations to also properly address these concerns and not just let them slide by. Especially when you have, like I said, you have law enforcement officials that are engaged. As the anonymous caller said, this is official misconduct. It's not just, let's, a little slap on the hand. Let's do a little adverse action and we'll make it go away. I mean, they're essentially law enforcement officers that are engaged in illegal activity.
Yep.
If according to what we saw in those civil service reports and according to that anonymous caller during official working hours, when they should be out there, ensuring the safety of the operations of the airport and the surrounding properties of the airport.
Right on. I mean, official misconduct, though, Senator, that doesn't mean anything to anybody nowadays.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said, Chris.
I said official misconduct. That doesn't mean anything to anyone in the government of Guam these days. It actually speeds up your hiring, looks like.
Well, that's why, recognizing that there's a loophole in the law, I did introduce Bill 3736. Hopefully, I'm sure I talked to Senator San Augustine the other day that he can schedule with his committee so that we can get that bill publicly heard and hear what our people have to say about that, and hopefully get it on the session agenda and address it. Because I think we need to have those standards in the government, especially for certain critical areas that exist. And now that we're finding that things are not as we would expect them to be, then I think we need to strengthen that process. We need to strengthen the hiring process and accountability of HR personnel to ensure that information and applications are properly vetted as well. That they're checking with previous employers, that they're ensuring that the credentials that are being brought forth are indeed correct. Because we're ending up finding out that that's not the case. And there's a lot of finger pointing. So said this and so said that. But when you follow a process, and there's a process of accountability, it can be as simple as how you submit a formal document to the court. I mean, every single page is numbered and it's in a sequence. It's not something you can come back later and just stick something in and pull another document out. It's unfortunate that we have to look at things to that extent, but when you're looking at hiring someone who could have a lifetime employment for 30 plus years in our government, I think we should ensure upfront that they are being upfront. If there are certain areas, as we mentioned, like port of entries, where we may have further concern about individuals, perhaps they had bad judgments in the past. I mean, current leadership seems to think, well, if they've changed their way, then it's all good. But there's no guarantee of that. And I think we need to minimize those type of concerns at the point of entry, because as we're all aware, these drugs are coming into the island. They're coming into the island. The fact that the cost of crystal methamphetamine keeps dropping tells you it's readily available out there. And so it's getting into this island. It's getting in and harming our families. The fact that our people live like they're literally in prison in their home because they don't feel safe, we should be concerned about that. We really should be, and we need to stop things at the point of entry and at the source.
By any chance, did you get to see the interview with the customs chief, Ike Pareto? He was kind of going over the oversight hearing, and he was talking about.
I listened to it. Yes, I did listen to it this morning.
Mm-hmm. So is that how it works? That the canine dogs, they only go out at the request of is it the port?
There shouldn't have to be a request from anyone. I mean, having run, good 12 years of my government career, I've been in management positions at Guam EPA, at DPW, and certainly the last 6 years, at the Port Authority of Guam. Any good manager knows you always are going to have limited resources, some cases less than others. But what you need to do is maximize your resources. I mean, I was at Guam EPA, there were 53 personnel, 51 for the employee, the other 2 were myself and the administrator. And, you have the whole island. You had all these major constructions going on at the time. You're having violations left, right, up, and down. You need to maximize your limited resources, and people need to have a level of concern that if they violate that, the odds are fairly good if you get caught, you're going to suffer the consequences. So, I understand we could talk about, and I hear that, oh, I don't have enough personnel. I don't have enough resources. I don't have this. I don't have that. Well, I go back to my days when I was working for Joe Atta as governor, and he told me, Joanne, tell me what you can do with what you have. Tell me what you can do with what you have. And that's a different perspective. It's like, okay, I only have so much, but this is what I can deliver for what I have. And that's what we want to hear. To say, oh, you know what, if we're going to announce to all the drug importers that we're hanging out at the post office, then my goodness, my next shipment's going to come through the port because they're all down there. The drug sniffing dogs are all down there at the post office. But if I don't know, for example, every now and then incrementally unexpected, the drug sniffing dogs are going to show up, then I got to be a little more careful because you know what, they might be here. So I'm sorry. I've been in this game too long. I mean, I'm not just talking about it because I actually know what it takes to run a major operation and manage limited resources. And I think that's what we want to hear versus, oh, I can't because I got this. And so it's on, this, and they're off island on training and they're sorry. At the end of the day, I want to know what you're doing with your 3 dogs and how are you moving them around unexpectedly and unannounced so nobody knows when to expect them. Because I don't believe for one second that all is good down there and that drugs are not coming in. And if they're not aware in the last 5 years, then check with the previous chief of customs that actually we know very well. There's one particular shipment that came in. It came in a pickup truck. It got taken out of the port. It got taken to a bonded warehouse facility. And while it was in that bonded warehouse facility, I guess the recipients of that, that load of drugs broke in, got that out of the console of that truck, and off they went. So it has happened, and it can be coming in different forms. It could be coming in the vehicles. It could be coming in a stuffed container that I don't know who's going to take the time to go over every single item in a 20 or 40-foot container.
Right.
So, I just think we need to magnify our presence. We need to be unexpected by anyone. We need to be unannounced. We need to be having that level of presence. And there are times, yes, I remember the drug sniffing dogs. They had those air-conditioned, cages that they were brought down. So I look at it that way. I know we're never going to have enough resources, but you know what? I think a little more effort needs to be made to magnify that presence and not simply say, well, because otherwise, hey, I'm not going to ship my next shipment through the post office because I know they're not paying any attention down at the port. That's something I think we've learned very well over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Sad to say.
Yep. Okay. Anyway, what time session?
It's 10 o'clock.
Oh, okay. Right.
10 o'clock.
Oh,
So I'll be heading there shortly.
So you got any power moves planned?
You're too funny, Chris.
I try. Right on. Oh, okay,
Sometimes
Senator.
we have to have a little humor in all this because otherwise we'd be incredibly disappointed.
You know what my mantra is, Senator? My mantra is from Mary Poppins. I don't know if you guys remember. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. The medicine go down in a most delightful way. That's my whole center. Just need a little bit of laughter. Yeah.
We're still looking at things on the positive side. But,
oh, there's nothing positive about that. I'm just saying that you gotta put a little sweet to digest all this sour.
Here, we really do.
Yeah,
Yes,
Chris, I got Julie Andrews on line 1. She wants to talk to you about something.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Good luck today.
Yep.
You guys, hi Jason. Take care, Bree, and happy Chris, and happy Valentine's.
Right
Happy
on.
For all of you and your.
Break a leg. 9:23.
Can't wait to watch that.